Hey, hello there. My name is Brian Alexander Escobar Castaneda, and my group is formed by Rodrigo Alonso Monterrosa Colindres, Jacqueline Vanessa Moran Cruz, Jocelyn del Rosario Tobar Aguirre, Mariela Beatriz Blanco Marroquín, and Nelly Jamilet Moran Cruz. Today we are going to talk about a famous book. This famous book is titled Perfume by Patrick Suskind. First of all, I'm going to start telling or talking about a short summary. I have to say that this is a very short summary because of the time. So first of all, we have to know that the main character from this book is Jean Baptiste Grenouille. Grenouille is born to a fishwife mother in Paris in the early 18th century. He is delivered behind his mother's fish stall and is immediately abandoned to die. The baby, who strangely has no scent, cries out and is saved by onlookers. His mother is executed for this attempt and for her previously successful infanticides, leaving Grenouille a bastard. Alone in the world, he is brought up in a sort of home orphanage, tended together with several other orphans by an emotionally damaged woman named Madame Gaillard. At the age of 8, he is given in apprentices to a tanner, where he is almost worked to death. After having survived anthrax, he is treated marginally better and is given some slight freedom. Grenouille roams the city of Paris searching for new scents because he has the most gifted nose in the world. On one of his olfactory jaunts around the city, Grenouille finds the most delicious scent he has ever encountered. This scent comes from an adolescent girl. He finds her scent from a long distance and he follows it until he is very near her in the dark. She senses him, and as she turns around to see him, he strangles her. Then he takes the opportunity to smell her scent, and it is the best day or the happiest he has ever been. He leaves the body and feels no remorse. One night, he delivers some goat skins to Baldini, the perfumer. He begs the old man to let him work for him. After showing the master that he has a wonderful nose and a great memory for mixing perfumes, Baldini is so impressed with the scent that Grenouille creates that he takes him. While working for Baldini, Grenouille makes the best scents Paris has ever smelled, and Baldini becomes very rich. Grenouille falls ill again, but he survives once Baldini tells him there are other ways to distill and preserve scents to be learned in the south of France. This news revives Grenouille. Eventually, he leaves Baldini to go to learn distillation methods in Grace. On the way to Grace, Grenouille makes the tour for 7 years to a mountain cave where he ponders the scents he has known in his entire life. There he works in a small perfumery when he goes to Grace. He learned different methods of distillation, but especially cold and flourish. He now begins to distill essence other than flowers, such as inanimated objects. He moves onto animals, finally realizing that he must kill them in order to get their scent properly. And now he has a goal. He has found a scent to match the girl he killed in Paris. Another redhead, daring Grace, named Laure Riches. He devises a plan to create a scent of her essence, but he needs other essence to make it truly wonderful. Grenouille proceeds to kill 24 teenage girls in the region of Grace, and he distills their scent by using coal and flourish. Finally, he murders and obtains the scent of his prize, the best smelling girl, obviously Laurie. He is caught for his crimes, but by using the master scent he has created, he is believed innocent by all. Feeling depressed and suicidal because there are no greater scents to be discovered, Grenouille goes to Paris to die. He douses himself with the master scent and is devoured by a mob. That's all for me. Thank you.
Hi teacher, this is Rodrigo Colindres and I will continue talking about Perfume, a history of a murder. I would like to start with themes. Themes are truly essential in this novel. For example, it tells about power of dreams. Dreams played a powerful role throughout the novel. They foreshadow events, inspire premonitions, and convey knowledge. For example, when Jean Baptiste spent 7 years living in a cave in France, dreaming of a castle with scents he has collected in his mind. It also tells about nature of evil. The novel explores evil not only throughout the cool-hearted Jean Baptiste Grenouille, but also through other selfish and greed-driven characters. The novel describes the characters as worthy of admiration or free of selfish motivation. It also tells about God power like. The novel is set in France in the late 18th century, when religion played a large role in many people's lives. For example, after Grenouille's wet nurse gives of care for him, he is handing over the Father Terrier, who scoffs at Jeanne when she claims that infant Jean Baptiste is in link with the evil. And it also talks about symbolism. Symbolisms are important here, and I would like to mention things. The narrator often refers to Jean Baptiste Grenouille as a thick-like, meaning he will bide his time and lie dormant until he smells his next opportunity of or victims. And ticks feed blood, and although Grenouille is after scent, he commits murder to obtain it. So his version of drawing blood further a big aligns him with this parasite creature. Parasites or this creature. Plants and purity. Jean Baptiste is obsessed with with all scents, but he learns how to trade the perfumery by studying the distillation of plants, particularly rare flowers. The novel often refers to girls too as maidens. They represent the purity of their souls and hearts. and that they are different from the rotten society where they live and where everyone is awful, corrupt, and smell bad. Also, Jean Baptiste often refers to those girls he murdered as rare plants, and he hopes to rob of their scent, which shows his lack of human empathy with these victims. At this point, I would like to mention some important information in the race in action. Jean Baptiste Grenouille is born in Paris, France, to a poor woman who tries to abandon him in the ground of a market where she used to work, and where she had killed her other kids. The environment in the market is smelled to excrement, rotten trash, to sweat, etc. Jean Baptiste could smell all the scents there and developed strong senses in his nose. He can recognize every scent. When his mother occult him on the ground, he started to cry and catched people's attention, whom asked the woman about the child. And she had to confess that she pretended to kill him by letting him on the ground. She was sentenced to death. After all of that, Renil was baptized and living with a wet nurse, Jean Baptiste, who couldn't want him anymore because of the characteristics that I mentioned before. Jean Baptiste also was lent by Jean to a father terrier, and then he lent to the child to Madame Guillard, who didn't want him anymore because the child made the other child feel afraid of him for his behavior and the characteristics that I mentioned. Madame Guillard took Brunel to a grimoire, a man who buys child for heavy work. And one day, while Brunel was walking on the street, he could perceive a scent of a girl, which then he killed by strangling her. And then Brunel was took by Baldini, a businessman in Paris, and the most successful perfumer there. Brunilde learned how to elaborate perfumes, and he made some delicious scents by using many types of scents that he had in his nose. And on the other hand, one day Brunilde decided to escape from Paris and live in a cave somewhere in France. After 7 years living there, he was thinking in all the scents and how many perfumes he would create or could create if he proposed to create delicious scents. After years, he returned to Paris and he started to kill more girls. The girls where they have red hair, and he started making more perfumes with those girl essence, with those girl scents. Basically, this is all for me. My classmate Jackie will continue talking about the climax.
Hello teacher, my name is Jacqueline Vanessa Moran and I will talk about climax, falling action and resolution of the book The Perfume. The problem and complication become climax when Grenouille caught by Grace's government. The Grace's government finds 25 clothes and 25 hairs of the girls. Grace's government managed Grenouille's case to bring to the court. Then in April 15 and 1566, the court decided that 2 days later Grenouille will be brought and crucified. If he is still alive, Grenouille gets 12 snacks with the iron stick to break all of his body. The stage to punish Grenouille is ready to use. The executioner, Monsieur Papon, is ready too. Grenouille execution is like national celebration in Greece. Uses a long blue cardigan, white shirt, white silk stocking, and black shoes. The applause swept forward to the thunder. They carried two wooden beams forming a St. Andrew's cross to the scaffold and set it up for carpenter's homes. A journeyman carpenter held down every gesture of the deputy executioners, and the carpenter was greeted by the crowd's applause. And when Papon stepped forward with his iron rod, walked around the cross, measuring his steps, striking an imaginary blow, now on the one side, and on the other side there was an eruption of the downright jubilation. The murdering that Grenouille does to 25 girls has appeared, and the quote by Grace's government he will punish in front of Grace's people. They will execute Grenouille. But he uses his perfume that made from 25 girls in the execution. After that, all of Grace's people aren't believe that Grenouille is a murderer. He walks to the stage, Papon, as the executor feels that Grenouille doesn't murder 25 girls. The employee, pioneer, police, the executor, and all of the nobility come in this execute. Christ and dismiss there to receive Grenouille. They consider that God to go down on edge in Grenouille's. Others who cause their eyes mutually to heavens and delish, their hands in prayer. A miracle had occurred before their very eyes. The Lord God has personally stayed execute hand by closing as an angel. Grace's people believe that the person that stayed in front of them was an angel that undercover as a Grenouille. So the climax happens when Grenouille catches by Grace's government when the government will execute him. So Grenouille uses his perfume that makes from 25 girls' body. The effect is Grace's people feel hypnotized with Grenouille's essence. Talking about the following action, when all of the Grace's people woke up from an intoxicated day, the Ministry of Justice arranged a meeting and discussed that Grenouille case has closed. Then the ministry opens a new case about murder 25 girls that has revealed without discuss about Grenouille's again. In the next day, all of proof about 25 clothes and 25 hairs found in the Droz workshop, so arrested Dominic Droz. Since after all it was in his cabin that the clothes and hair of all the victims had been found. The judges were not disturbed by the lies he told us first. After 14 hours of torture, he confessed everything and even vowed to execute as soon as possible, which granted, and the execution set off the following day. So, the following action happened when Grenouille's case closed. Then the Grace's government catches Dominic Droz and decides him as a murderer. Talking about the resolution, the story closed by Grace's government divests Grenouille from all the case after Grenouille hypnotizes all of the Grace's people and Grace's government catches Dominic Droz as a murderer. After that, Grenouille will trip to anywhere that he wants with perfume. He realized that he has a little flacon that is still full of perfume and it only uses it in the execute. He could do all the days he wanted. He possessed the power, he held it in his hand. A power stronger than the power of money or the power is the terror or the power of the death. The invisible power to command, the law of making, there was only one thing that power couldn't do. It couldn't make him able to smell himself. Grenouille arrived in the first street. In there, he felt that all of first people don't care with him. So he appears in crowds people. He opens his little flacon and pours all of his perfume in his body. Then this body looks bright. The people don't care with him. Now they feel happy and interested with the smell as an angel. The angel comes unexpectedly. They want to touch him, they wanted to have him, they destroy his clothes, hair, and everything. They ate Grenouille. The food hurt them, but they don't regret having done it. This was after he was free of government. When they ate him, they felt just as brave as him. That's all for me. Thank you so much.
Well, now I'm going to talk about what intended the author in this novel and what could be the moral lessons. It seems to me that just by reading the title of this novel, we can feel an air of enigmas, mysteries, and secrets, containing in a liquid substance that, in addition to containing many different fragrances, that can attract many people for sexual purposes. And it is a very interesting and attractive way that this story begins to see how the author transmits so many characteristics and sensations together, being able to transmit to us a connection between a smell and the brain. Managing to feel those aromas that are described in all the course of this story. This novel is by the German Sophie, which invites us to reflection, and it's set in French at the beginning of the revolution, probably into a great change, a process manifested in the social crisis and in the collapse of the states that led to the disintegration of absolutism, where technically there were only two social stratas. Either you were rich, richest, or you were totally poor. In the last one, we found a mother in a local market vendor about to give birth under the table where she toppled the remains of the fish that she sold. Waiting for this baby to die, the mother left him lying, and while her scream warning the other vendor, arrested and accusing the mother for murder. From this moment, the baby, the little Jean Baptiste Grenouille, is picked up, and from that special moment, he begins to his Christian life because he has a special gift that is has a very developed the sense of smell. This particularly helped him as he grew up and going from being an ordinary person to one of the best teachers in the art of aroma. Likewise, the author shows us the stage of how a person, rejected by society, managing to claim to be accepted. And Jean Baptiste Grenouille brings with him a great secret between essences and essence, and a tireless desire to achieve a personal goal. From the mystery world in which he was born, the protagonist claims a social position, becoming a famous perfumer. He creates a perfumer couple to making him go hypnotizing and inspire love. To obtaining these formulas, he must murder young virgin girls and obtaining her bodily fluids and liquefy his intermediary essence. His art becomes a supreme and a haunting assembly of hands. In the moral message or moral lessons of this novel combines to us is the need that all human beings have to be in search of a personal inventory, that is to say, to find what makes us unique as a person, and that lets us to be able to feel our lives and to feel complete. Currently, most people are driven by materialism, but however, we know that this doesn't give us happiness. And however, a feeling we love feels all those voices that we can have as a person.
After having confessed that he was who had murdered the young woman, this man was taken to a dungeon, and his hands and his feet were tied. Laura's father thought about how he could torture him and make his life miserable to make him pay for the crimes, especially that of his daughter. For Mr. Anthony Riches, it was not enough just to kill or crucify him. Mr. Riches' goal was to torture him until the murdered hated his own life and preferred to die rather than continue living. Then, the next day, on the orders of Mr. Riches, the guards took a young virgin and set her near the door of the dungeon. This, with the purpose that Grenouille would see her and wanted to collect her, and feel bad and desperate because he could not do it, and like this for 24 days. 24 young virgins were brought to the dungeon, one per day, with the purpose that the murderer would see them, and little by little become more crazy and psychopathic, desperate and thus tortured because he was chained hand and feet look up. He could not get the girls or their scents, other than just smell them. The next day, no girl arrived, and he went more crazy. He hurt his whole body because he couldn't perceive any smell of young virgin. Then he was taken out of the dungeon, and the guards left him naked. They took off his clothes and they went him and left him outside watched by the guards to make him feel cold. The man suffered from hypothermia but didn't die. Then they tore him nail by nail. They gave him 24 blows to the body. They took off his head and put him back in the dungeon, and he wished to be dead. After 3 days, they took him out and tied him to a stick. And the parents of the young women who died started to tear off the skin, and then burned him and gave him to the dogs. When the guy died, the perfume bottle rose in the sky and exploded, dispersing the liquid which was the essence of the girls, and they all resuscitated. It was something magical. The reasons why we chose this ending is because we believe that in some way it has a certain relationship with the story. First, the death of the girl is not cherished fairly. We say that because in the book, people killed someone who was not the murderer. For that reason, we turned it around and we wanted to give justice to the crimes, since Grenouille had to pay for that. Besides, if someone murdered a child, the parents will do everything for justice or revenge. Second, we bring training for young virgins to the dungeon because it was 24 girls that he killed. Third, his body was beaten 24 times since he gave each of the girls a blow to the head. The blows to Grenouille were to the body and not to the head because we still didn't him to die. We said that his hair were put out because that is what he did with the girls. The parents of the murdered women tore his skin so that he could somehow assimilate the pain that he could who caused them for the death of the girls. After he dies, the essence or the aroma of the girls' souls return to them, and they are resurrected. Since we can interpret in the book that the men stole the poor soul of the girls, so we think all those souls should return to where they were put.
Hello, my name is Nelia Miret Moran, and today I'm going to talk about my personal opinion of the book The Perfume. In my opinion, I consider that this book is quite striking because the narrative is very attractive for the readers. It should be noted that for some readers the narrative may not be so excellent since the context can, so to say, be quite strong. It could be said that this causes some readers to decrease their enthusiasm by focusing more on the book due to its content. But we can also say that for those who like to read a book with this type of plot, it is delight for those because according to the events that take place in the novel, it makes reader aroused interesting for all those fans of this type of outcome. Awaken that interest to read the book until it reaches its end, to know what happens with each of the characters that are involved in the story, from the main character to the one who plays the least role in the story, since all equally play an important role in the novel. Every book, no matter how small, has to catch the reader's attention. It must arouse an enthusiasm and exquisiteness. It must be attractive to readers, so that from the beginning they feel that feeling of wanting to finish reading it, due to the plot that it contains. In my opinion, this book catches my attention and readers' attention as they discover how is happening with each of the characters. This book catches my attention, and that is why it motivates me to continue reading the book until I reach its end, and consider that the plot is quite strong since it deals with a murderer who is the protagonist of the story, and he is called Jean Baptiste Grenouille. In my opinion, the content of the book could be not appropriate for minors because of its content, but it can be striking for adolescents or adults, since in my opinion the story of murder and how he commits the murders, it catches a lot the attentions in arouse the interest to know how committed the murders and to know the reason for everything he does, and more is striking to know what his objective is, to steal the essence that a human body contains to that he can make a perfume, the perfume that he has always wanted to make. It also awakens the interest of knowing the places mentioned in the story, of knowing everything, where those murders committed by a man who take place when who present nothing to anyone, but because of that same insignificance that he possessed, he was among everyone, doing horrible things without anyone suspect him. And it is to know where this story ended, or rather what the end of this murderer would be. How would he pay for all his crimes? To finish, I would like to recommend this book to all those who like fictional stories. That's all for me, and thank you so much.